everyone, welcome to my channel. It's Christina with Read.Pray.Disney. Here on this channel, we like to talk all things Disney, from planning to packing to pins to books. So if you want to come on that journey with me, I'd love to have you. Go ahead and hit a like and subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. All right, so today we are hitting up chapters 15 through 20 of The Evil Queen. And there is so much building and so much happening that I can't even, it's a lot. So let's get started, all right? Okay, so when we left off with Truly and Everly and Roth, and we're all in Enchantia right now, right? And they're in the forest of, the enchanted forest of Enchantia. So they're in the forest, and Okay, so we're in the forest, and what just happened? What happened was, Truly was explaining to Everly how her and Roth are engaged, but Truly doesn't love him. She loves someone else. And Roth, he says he feels the same way. He doesn't want to be engaged, but they're engaged because of their fathers are trying to unite the kingdom. And if they don't get married, there's going to be a war. Now, granted, King Stephen, which is Truly's dad, he's dead. And Roth's dad up in the north, he's almost dead. They're trying to save him, right? That's why they're in that's the whole point of them being in the enchanted forest, is because they got to find the apple of life and death to save Roth's father. So there we are. So Truly does tell Everly to say, hey, you should try to take him. Everly thinks about it, she thinks about it, and so let's begin with what on chapter 15. So on chapter 15 picks up, they're in the middle of the night. So they're in the camp that they made, and Roth, he kind of explains to Everly that he dreamt of her before, and you can kind of take it from there what he dreamt. Right. So he dreamt of her before. He had dreamed about her, and she's a little taken back by it. She's like, oh, granted, she's been spying on him for a while, but it's through her mirror. But he drops that little nugget of stuff, and she's like, oh, okay. And they do a lot of flirting. They haven't done anything other than flirting. Like, they haven't even kissed. They've talked about kissing, but they have flirted and flirted and flirted and flirted. So they do more flirting. And Everly kind of explains to Roth that she wants a job there in Enchantia. She preferably in the kingdom. She wants to be able to do something at court, because remember, she wants to get close to Truly, and she wants to be close to her. She wanted to be close to her mom, but that obviously didn't go well, which is why they're in the forest, because she tried to kill her. Everly's birth mom tried to kill her. So that's the other reason why they're in the forest. But she talks about that, and she keeps trying to press Roth for information about sorcerers and why they're despised so much in the kingdom. And essentially he tells her that one of the reasons why he despised sorcerers so much is because he was taken. Remember, Nick way back when talked about like an Altalium, I think is how we pronounce it, where it's a group of witches that are held, and the sorcerer can siphon from those witches and use their power essentially forever. You can siphon, it's possible to siphon too much, but if you keep them healthy and whatever, you keep them locked up and you just siphon from these witches whenever you need to. And so Roth was a part of one. Him, his stepmother, and his brother were all taken and kidnapped and put into an Altalium and were used. And so unfortunately, the stepmother and the brother died, and Roth survived. He was able to escape. So that's why he holds so much resentment over sorcerers. So Everly is like, ooh, dang, you got to tell me that, really? So for Roth, his whole point is he sees one, he's going to kill it on sight. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. He's killing sorcerers left and right. That's it. That's just it. So obviously she's a little hesitant in telling him who she really is and what she can really do. So she's holding this big secret, right? And she's not telling him, but their feelings keep getting wrapped up and deeper. And you're like, this is going to explode at some point. And it's almost like, come on, just tell him already. But she doesn't. So we carry on. They were talking about the sorcerer stuff. And like I said, Roth tells her about the his past. And then Roth also tells Everly that he knows about the story of Snow White and he thinks that he plays a part in it. He's not sure what part he plays. At first he thought he was the huntsman. Well, yeah, for the most part, he thinks he's the huntsman. But he's not sure what part he plays, but he believes that his sister also plays a role too, Farah, and he thinks that she might be Snow White. So he's kind of all over the place, and Everly's like, oh my gosh, you know about this? And so they kind of talk a little bit about it, but again, she doesn't relate to him who she thinks she is, because if she doesn't tell him she thinks she's the evil queen, because then that kind of, puts forth that she's sorcering. And then the other thing is Roth tells her that he thinks that Truly is one of the 7 protectors. So obviously he's been thinking about this too. And so now she's been thinking about it, and they have a conversation a little bit. And then they do, of course, they cannot go a page without flirting. Anyway, so Everly decides to stay with Roth and not go back with Truly, because Roth was going to send Truly back to the kingdom while he continues on his quest to find the apple. And he was going to send Everly back too, but Everly decides that she wants to stay. And so they have this intense romantic scene again, where he is discussing what he wants in a relationship. So I'm going to read this to you. It's PG, guys. Maybe 13, PG-13. She goes, he placed his lips at my ear and breathed. I want to look at a girl and know she's mine and mine alone. That I am hers, that we belong to each other, body and soul. I want the world to stop when we're together. I want to dream about her at night and wake for her every morning. I want to put her first and know she does the same for me. I want everything. Y'all, that is about the sweetest thing. It's so romantic. God, it's so romantic. I'm just, okay, Roth. Okay. So anywho, they're having this intense romantic scene, right? Again, no kissing or anything, but it's just words and they're talking. And of course, here comes some trolls. So some trolls, they find out trolls are coming. And that leads us into chapter 16. So in chapter 16, it picks up with the trolls attacking, and their trolls are attacking, and they start to scatter. They run, and essentially what happens is the trolls are kind of herding them into a circle sort of thing. And what they find out, what Everly decides to do, she finds out that trolls are scared of fire, so she siphons from one of the trolls, okay, and she projects fire. And so like a ring of fire, essentially, to keep them down. They're in the middle, the trolls on the outside, because the trolls had herded them. And so she projects fire. And, the people she's with are like, oh my gosh, like that's amazing how intense the fire is, the projection of the fire. And so that kind of pushes the trolls back and they retreat. But not before there was a battle, okay, before all that happened. And Reese, remember Reese is the merman that they're with? And he's the silent merman because he's a siren, and his voice calms people or incises people. So either way, he gets shot with an arrow and he's going down, or not shot. I'm sorry. He was bitten by a troll. And evidently, if you're bitten by a troll, there is no coming back from that. So she projects this fire thing to protect everybody, and the trolls scatter. But then, they got to take care of Reese. And, she's shook, she doesn't know what to do. She feels like, should she siphon something else and try to save him? She doesn't know, but she doesn't have any healing siphon or healing magic either. She hasn't connected to anyone who's a healer. So, they talk about the projection, and Roth wonders if she is Aubrey's daughter, because he says, I knew of a queen once who had one, amazing projection power, and you must be her daughter. He's close, but no cigar. Sad part though. when you have magic and you get bitten by a troll, or when you're magical and you're bitten by a troll, there's no coming back from that. So they gotta kill him. Roth does the do. Okay. Everly doesn't know how to stop them from doing that. You remember, she's immortal. She's human not mortal, but she's human for all intents and purposes. She was born or raised in the human world. So she doesn't really connect this together. And so she's feeling some kind of way about it. And so she's trying to stop it. Like, she's literally standing over his body, trying to protect Reese from Roth. And Roth is not anger. He's not incensed or anything. He knows this is what needs to be done. And so Reese, in his dying breath, he speaks and he says, this is what let it happen, and everybody's calm except for Everly. And she kind of catches on, like, everybody's agreeing to this and they're calm and okay with it. And Everly's like, what's going on with y'all? But Roth does it. He does the deed and he cuts off Reese's head. Ooh. Anyway, there's a lot of gore. Like, as much as intense romance there's a lot of gore. Like, it's a lot. Anyway, so he cuts off his head, and they do a bonfire type thing, and to have a service and so forth, say words and all that. But Everly, when she talks to him about it, she's like, hey, was that necessary? And she still doesn't believe it's necessary. Truly tells her about what other, about how other lands kind of feel about death and so forth. And so that leads Everly into thinking about how she needs to let go of her mother. She's been holding on, and she feels like she can't reach her full potential as a sorcerer if she's holding on to the guilt of her mother. It wasn't, and it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to react that way. So she decides to let it go, right? And then we go into, so she decides to let it go. Yeah. Okay, so she decides to let it go. So then that leads us into chapter 17. So in chapter 17, Everly takes the mirror, because again, she's still reeling over this Reese situation. So she takes the mirror and she siphons, she still has that magic from the troll, whatever troll it was. So she siphons a little more from him and she activates the mirror and she's like, hey, show me what would have happened. What would have happened if they didn't kill Reese. And so the mirror shows her that essentially he would have went all zombie mode, right? And went around killing people, and truly would have taken an arrow to the eyeball, and like, it is weird, right? So she's like, oh, okay, they were right. She closes the mirror and Truly walks up and they have this conversation, and Truly wonders, she says, hey, we were all kind of enchanted by the siren when he spoke, but you weren't affected. I wonder why that is. And it's not in a bad way. She's not suspicious of her. She's just like, I don't know, because evidently the only creatures that aren't affected by sirens are trolls and something else, but I forgot what the other thing is, but trolls for sure. And so Everly thinks that the reason why it didn't happen to her because she was siphoning the troll at the time. So that's why the siren, when Reese spoke, it didn't affect her. I don't know if that's a plot point that's going to come back later, but it was some serious explanation. Okay. All right. So we're still in chapter 17. And then from there, Truly and Everly have a conversation. Truly talks to Everly about the myth of the Snow White prophecy and so forth. And she tells her that Truly thinks that she is the huntsman and that Roth and Farah might be Snow White and Charming. And Truly also reiterates that not everything in that fairy tale is as it seems, you know, like it doesn't necessarily mean that Roth and we talked about this before, that Roth and Charming and Snow White have a romantic inclination. It doesn't necessarily mean that. And so she's trying to puzzle these things together as well. And so they have a nice conversation about that. And they even go as far as to try to talk through what happened, as far as the whole Truly, not talk through what happens, let me rephrase that. Truly tells her about Farrah, which is a very big point for Everly. Truly discusses with her feelings for Farrah, and that she is in love with her, and that she can't just break it off with Roth, because then the kingdoms will be at war. Which again, I don't know how they go to war if one king is dead and the other king is dying. So like, can't you just call it off and, you know, you guys are gonna be rulers anyway? I don't know. I don't get that part. Anywho, so Everly, taking that information and thinking about it, she runs into the spider. Wait, now y'all, it's called a spider. Oh, hold on, it's called a spiderorpian. So it's a spider/scorpion. So it's like spider legs and a scorpion tail. Okay, so evidently spiderorpians are these little creatures that they hunt out sorcerers, because, you know, more history of, you know, their kind were used and blah, 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 blah. So they hunt out sorcerers. So now Everly, you know, because as she's walking away from the conversation with Truly, she runs into the spiderorpian. She screams, because she is like deathly afraid of spiders. She can get in there and cut off a troll's arms and, you know, watch these people pull out entrails and da-da-da-da-da, but let a spider cross her path and she's done for. So anyway, Roth comes to save her with this, and he's about ready to kill it. And she's like, no, it didn't do anything to me, so let it go. You know, like, why? But it comes back later. Okay. All right. So that happens. And it's important because the spider corpian, you'll see. And then there's more intense flirting. You know, he's like, saved your life. And she's like, yes. They can't not talk to each other without this intense flirting. So then we go to chapter 18. All right. So in chapter 18, they decide that it's best everybody stays together and not anyone go off. Like, everybody just stays together, and we're going to go search for the apple. So they go traipsing through the forest. And Roth essentially tells Everly that he enjoys having her around. He enjoys looking after her. He enjoys cooking for her. He enjoys foraging in the forest for her. Like, he tells her all these things. Again, intense flirting. And then Everly and Truly get to know each other a little better. She also tells Everly tells her that King Stephen, their father, is half sorcerer. So their grandmother, I don't know on whose side, but their grandmother had a extramarital relationship, and she, it was with a sorcerer. So their father was half sorcerer. So remember, Everly is taken after the father because he was half sorcerer and he was a seer and so forth. So Everly's taken on that. Truly doesn't have any of that. Truly's magic is, you know, of the being able to like shoot arrows, like very combat ready type stuff. And she's an excellent tracker, which is why she thinks she's the huntsman, by the way. So then they talk and they talk and they talk. And then Noelle pops back in Everly's head. And Noelle tells her that Hartley's fine and fairy tales are symbolic. So remember that. And Noelle, you know, is, hey, she's telling her that, hey, you need to stop kind of obsessing so much, because you obsessing is driving me crazy. I don't know how, like, is she constantly monitoring Truly telepathically? Is she constantly monitoring Truly telepathically? I don't know. But she pops in and tells her that. So as Everly is essentially arguing with Noelle, she runs smack into a tree. and Roth comes running again to save her. And as they're doing all of this, the ground kind of shakes, like it's almost like an earthquake, and it cracks open, and Roth died because Everly falls through the cracks, and Roth dives to grab her, and then he grabs her, but he can't really hold on. And so Saxon comes, and Vikander, he's like making these metal stakes out of these metal shavings and trying to so Roth can kind of support himself. And all said and done, they have like this whole chain of things happening, trying to pull Everly up, but it doesn't happen because the ground keeps shaking. So Everly's like, look, just let me go. And she releases, and she falls. And as she falls to the ground, she comes to meet this new guy. Another character, right? So Tyler, like me, Tyler. Anyway, so Tyler is in this picture. Now, Tyler was sent by Nick. Remember, Nick is the stepdad. Tyler was sent by Nick. And Tyler, he's there, and like he's like this epitome of what an angel would look like, she thinks. And Tyler comes, and he tells her that, you know, I'm here to protect you. I'm sworn to you. Our High Lord has returned, and this is my task. You are my task. And Everly's like, whoa, 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 the Overlord has returned? Wait a minute. Nick is here? And he's like, yeah, he's here. He's been here a couple of days. And so she's blown by that because Noelle didn't tell her that in her head. Noelle didn't tell her that. And so Nick is in there, and he's telling Tyler that he needs to protect Everly. And so he marks Everly. So like essentially he grabs her and he burns her, but not a burn, but he burns her. And so it's her mark. And so anytime she needs him, she puts her hand on this mark, and that's like, she can call him. And she refuses. She's like, I don't need you, and da 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 da. I don't need what's happening, you know. She has Roth. She doesn't say that, but that's what she's thinking. She has Roth. She doesn't need him. But Tyler's like, you know what? It's up to you, but I'm here. This is my job. And as he is telling her that Roth is descending, they made some vines or something, and they get down into the crack. And so Tyler takes off, and Truly is kind of shook about trying to tell, well, whether or not she's going to tell him, but she can't tell them because then she has to reveal that she's sorcering. So now we got more secrets. It's like, ugh. So anywho, that was the big deal in chapter 17. Yeah. So in it was 17. I saw it was chapter 18. Chapter 19, we have, as they're going and traveling, they think, I lost my spot. They think that they might be the apples. Like, Truly, Everly kind of takes in consideration. She's like, well, I wonder, because remember, Truly is a tracker. And so she's the one who's like technically tracking the apple. And she's saying, I can feel it. It's here. It's somewhere around. It's just like, it's like she's getting close to it, but it doesn't ebb away, and it doesn't get stronger. It's like it's around wherever she's at. And so they kind of consider, well, is it really an apple that they're after? They wonder, is it maybe Truly or Everly or Roth that they're supposed to find? So they kind of have that conversation, which I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Because remember, I don't know if I told y'all this, whenever Noelle pops into Truly's head, Truly has like this apple-shaped birthmark, and it kind of warms and heats. And that's how she knows that Noelle is, you know, about to talk to her. So, I don't know. Anywho, so in chapter 19, they talk about that a little bit, but then they go on to talking about, so they kind of set up camp, and they talk over the prophecy. They talk over, Truly kind of tells Everly that Roth had a girlfriend before, because, you know, they're talking boy talk, whatever. And Truly tells her that Roth he's never seemingly had been in love, but he did have a girlfriend, and Everly takes it some kind of way. Like, she really kind of steps into evil queen mode. She's like, I need to annihilate this girl. that type of thing, right? She's ready to kill her. And she catches herself. She's like, ooh, that was kind of harsh, but not really. You know? So that duality that she has is like really fierce. That other side of her, really, she's like, woo. So anywho, they get cleaned up, and then Roth sees her after she's all dressed up and cleaned up and so forth. And, you know, his whole jaw drops and all of that. He cooks for them. Vikander, but the biggest thing here is that Vikander mesmerizes Everly to kind of get the truth out of her. He asks her, are you here to hurt us? Are you here to hurt someone? And so Roth, you know, he's stunned because he didn't have permission to do that. So Vikander doesn't ask the right question, though. He doesn't ask her who she is. And he should have. He just asks her if she's there for the malicious reasons, essentially. And she's like, well, obviously not. That's why she's there. So when Vikander takes the spell off of her, Roth is, you know, he's like, I didn't ask you to do that. Don't ever do it again. You don't have my permission to do it. And Vikander kind of holds his ground. He goes, I'm sworn to you. Evidently something happened between Vikander and Roth. And you wonder if Vikander actually loves Roth too, because he's really intense about protecting him. I don't know. It seemed like maybe something happened between them, like an unrequited love. Remember Gaston in Rebel Rose? Maybe it's an unrequited love thing. However, unlike Gaston, Vikander can hold his own. So anywho, not Gaston, LeFou. Anyway, so they go back and forth about that. And then, you know, there's more romantic inclinations and so forth. But the biggest thing there was that Everly told, after all that happened, Everly is kind of taken back a little bit, but then immediately she feels like she needs to see the mirror. Like the mirror is calling to her. Remember, she has her compact. The mirror is calling to her and wants her to see something. And she's a little panicking because she doesn't know. She doesn't have any magic. She's far away from the troll. She's like, who does she siphon from? And that's where we kind of leave off with there. So in chapter, that was it. That was chapter 20, 19 and 20, up to 20. So she doesn't know who she needs to siphon from in order to see the mirror. Can y'all guess who she might siphon from? We'll see. But that's it for today, guys. Our next video will take us up to chapter 21 through 25, I believe. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate it. And again, if you haven't hit a like and subscribe, go ahead and do so. What are you waiting for? But thanks, guys. Have a magically blessed day, and I'll be praying for you. Bye.